Seele arrives in Nagazora 6 months after the Great Eruption and meets up with Susannah, who is doing an incredible job at keeping a low profile. Susannah briefs Seele on their mission to investigate an organization causing trouble in the city called Incognito. After a short investigation, they contact Dr. Einstein and Tesla. For a moment, Seele notices a small distortion in space, but brushes it off. I'm sure this won't be important in the future, right? Einstein and Tesla revealed that Welt retired and started his own animation studio. Branya joined him because she wanted to make games, and Teresa is now the leader of the newly merged organization between Schicksal and Anti-Entropy. Schicksal detected several attacks in the city claimed to be made by a group called Incognito. They seem to have a lot of mechs and are planning to put Nagazora in lockdown. Tesla claims to have found the perfect guide to help them, and the two girls leave for the Roost to meet her, and of course the guide turns out to be Sora because who else could have been? After a lot of detective work, they arrive at the conclusion that Incognito might be related to Word Serpent. The girls lure and chase one of the Incognito's androids to an abandoned warehouse. The android's voice is eerily similar to Grey Serpent, but after they enter the building, the android mysteriously disappeared. As the operation failed, they decide to rest and continue the investigation tomorrow. Sora brings them to Chihuahua's foster home, an orphanage made by Raven, who was arrested after the Great Eruption but got out on bail, and now she's out working to atone for her sins. Whatever that means. At the foster home, Seele is reunited with Rosa and Lily, who are working as touring teachers, which is quite a scary prospect now that I think about it. While looking for a lost child, Seele is transported to an unfamiliar world. She is attacked by quantum shadows, but after defeating them, she wakes up in the real world with Susannah worryingly calling out her name. The next day, the doctors confirm that the voice truly belonged to one of the Grey Serpents. Apparently, Incognito only stole prosthetics to simulate tactile sensibility and real human organs. Based on that, they deduce their next target, and Seele and Susannah finally catch up with Grey Serpent. He reveals that he is the only member of the organization and that he was using the rumors about it to create confusion and disguise his plan. He was once an incomplete Grey Serpent without a personality. Word Serpent would use the Grey Serpent network to create personalities for the incomplete ones, but now that the network is gone, the incomplete ones will remain like that forever. This one had his personality completed right before the network collapsed and managed to escape. Since then, he became obsessed with having a real body and started stealing body parts to make one for himself. He manages to escape by splitting up his body and rearranging it. That is also how he escaped yesterday at the warehouse. Seele and Susannah formulate a new plan with the doctors. Now that Grey Serpent got his hands on the last bionic prosthetic, he will try to look for a place to reconstruct himself. They must take advantage of this moment and catch him before he leaves Nagazora. They get some intel about his location, but are attacked by Seeds of Ideas on their way. In case you forgot, Seeds of Ideas are incomplete ideas under Mistaline's control. After finally cornering Grey Serpent, they are suddenly transported in the Sea of Quanta. Mistaline is revealed to be somehow involved in this situation, but not even Grey Serpent knows her plan, although he is very happy to go along with it as long as it benefits him. Susannah isn't feeling too well. Seele thinks that there's something strange with the Sea of Quanta, cause Susannah should adapt well. I mean, duh, she's literally quantum. To everyone's surprise, Dark Seele separates herself from Light Seele's body. After that, Susannah suddenly starts feeling better, but quickly spirals back since she is too shocked to see two different Seeles. Dark Seele confirms that this situation is related to Mistaline's powers. Because they are three separate individuals now, she is able to stabilize the space around them and help them move. As they advance, they find residual images left behind by Grey Serpent. It seems that he got killed in an altercation with another entity. They are attacked by quantum shadows and hop into a portal to a bubble world. Dark Seele sees another person who looks exactly like Light Seele inside her mind space. She thinks that it's another one of Mistaline's tricks and attacks her. After the fake Seele leaves, Dark Seele ends up in a bubble world by herself. She is approached by a bunch of wisps claiming to be humans who lost their forms. They reveal that the only way to maintain their existence is under the moonlight and ask Dark Seele to gather some moon rocks for them. Dark Seele reluctantly accepts, and after touching one of the moon rocks, she feels Light Seele's presence for a brief moment. Back in the real world, Dr. Lobster and Dr. Mophead are preparing to search for Seele and Susannah. In the meantime, Light Seele and Susannah arrive in a similar looking place to Dark Seele, but instead of being nighttime, it's day. Light Seele realizes that her other self is missing and starts panicking. Fortunately, Susannah calms her down and they look around for clues. They find a strange looking door full of black spikes that nobody in their right mind would ever get close to. Susannah, why are you trying to open it? I can see why she's still a B rank. A voice from behind the door asks for help. While looking for Dark Seele in the area, the voice behind the door wants them to collect some light salt and offer it on the altar in the front of the door to open it. After touching a piece of light salt in the center of the town, Light Seele feels Dark Seele's touch in a similar way that her counterpart felt before, and she recognizes this place as the dreamlike world that she was transported to at Chora's house. After they collect all the pieces of light salt, they open the door and meet Shigure Kira, who welcomes them to Salt Snow Holy City. Kira recognizes that the two girls are wearing Shixal battlesuits and introduces herself as their senior Valkyrie. To nobody's surprise, the two girls have no idea who she is, but Susannah recognizes Cecilia's name and starts gushing over her. After the introductions are over, they travel to the main town to look for Dark Seele. They ask some questions from the locals and learn that another outsider was spotted in the city a few days ago, and that the people here believe in a deity capable of fulfilling the wishes of the people who pray to them, called the Sage of the High Tower. Also, it's always day outside, which wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary since this is a bubble world and it has its own laws, but the people here use the same method of calculating time as the real world, which doesn't make sense in this case. Lastly, the locals also use an AI assistant that seems way too advanced for them. Because of this, they suspect that another outsider might be behind these strange things. Soon after, they encounter a woman running away from a scythe-wielding monster. They save her and she reveals that those enemies are working for the sage and they are called oracles. Apparently, one of them confused her for an enemy. Yeah, confused, Anyway, we are introduced to female Vita. She welcomes the girls and offers to be their guide. Dark Seele is led to the largest city in the country of Fire and Sand. Unlike the Salt Snow Holy City, this city is covered in sand, has a more Middle Eastern aesthetic and is plagued by eternal night. Dark Seele learns that the Wisps consider this bubble world some kind of afterlife. Just like Salt Snow Holy City, the citizens worship the sage and believe that they will one day guide them back to life. Dark Seele is suspicious of this sage and finds the behavior of these talking flame balls strange. Suddenly one of the wisps says that the sage just descended in the city. Dark Seele wants to meet them, but the only person she sees is the almighty Herrscher of Sentience. Okay, at this point I think that Senti is Honkai's version of Mr. Worldwide. Back in Salt Snow Holy City, Vita tells them that the sage is their best bet to finding Dark Seele. But since the sage lives in seclusion, Vita proposes to meet one of the sage's envoys first. She knows an old man recognized by the envoy and offers to ask him about a way to meet them. After they arrive at the old man's house, they learn that he recently passed away. Surprisingly, his family and acquaintances are not sad since the people of this bubble world have a different perspective on the concept of death and afterlife due to their belief in the sage. Vita reveals that the sage can travel between life and death and that they guide the people's souls to the afterlife. Seele and the rest seem even more suspicious of the sage now. Unlike the majority of the people in this bubble world, Vita also seems to have some doubts about the sage. Meanwhile, Senti is impersonating the sage and makes illusions where she fulfills the wishes made by the wisps. Ah yes, truly the Herrscher of Scam. Dark Seele calls her out and the two end up having an argument until they start fighting. Apparently, Senti is much weaker due to the lack of Honkai energy. The Herrscher reveals that she was brought here by Mistalin, and after realizing that they have a common enemy, Dark Seele and Senti team up. Suddenly, the citizens are attacked by some monsters that look very similar to the oracles from Salt's No Holy City. They are called Sand Servants and work for the sage to keep the order in the country of Iron Sand. The Wisps revealed that this was the first time that they ever attacked them. The next day, Vita tells Seele and the rest about the career selection, an event where citizens get assigned jobs. The sage's envoy will appear at today's selection, so they need to take this opportunity to meet them. They arrive in the plaza and talk with a mag who assigns them the job of ambassador for cultural prosperity, which is a fancy way to say idols, and tells them that they need to perform in front of the citizens. Kira instructs Seele and Susannah on how to be idols, all while Vita stays behind and is laughing at them. Also, Kira does not want to perform because she's afraid that people will realize that she can't sing. After Seele and Susannah put up a brilliant performance, they finally meet the envoy, who turns out to be Prometheus. They ask Prometheus about this bubble world and Mistalin's intentions, and the AI tells them about what she and Mistalin were up to in the months following the Great Eruption. The flashback starts in another bubble world. We see a man who looks like Owl, aka Chen Tianwu. Oh great, I wonder how will HoYoverse torment him this time. Prometheus shows up and calls the man Abnormal Stigma number 13. Fun fact, Chen asks if Prometheus is that hacker girl, implying that this happens in the same bubble world that Brani is from. To keep this short, Prometheus reveals that he is not a human but an abnormal stigma created by the ripples caused by Project Stigma in the Sea of Quanta. The stigmata fabricated a set of false memories for him, making him believe that he lived all his life in this bubble world. At some point, his powers went berserk and he killed the people that he thought were his companions. After Chen realizes that his imaginary girlfriend never existed, he gets all depressed. Honestly, same man, same. After that, Mistalin brings him to her stigma space. It is revealed that Mistalin and Prometheus are going around different bubble worlds to collect abnormal stigmata and stop them from causing harm. Shortly after they arrive in Salt's No Holy City, Mistalin senses another abnormal stigma in the tower. As they begin looking for clues, we see Kira spying on them from afar. Mistalin goes to a secluded place to confront her, and we learn that Kira is not very good at stalking, which is yet another thing that we can add to the list of things she sucks at. Kira is mad and attacks Mistalin. She also notices that Mistalin looks exactly like Cecilia, a fact that only angers her even more. Finally! Thank you, Kira! I can't believe that it took so long for someone to address it. Look, I can understand May and Bronya not saying anything, but Kiana, she literally looks like your mom! The fight is interrupted by a mysterious person who turns out to be the Sage of the High Tower. Because Kira doesn't want to calm down, Mistalin yeets her into the Sea of Quanta. They confirm that the Sage is indeed another abnormal stigma, and they try to explain the situation. The Sage pulls a reverse card and stops the light coming from the tower, throwing the entire bubble world into chaos. Mistalin and Prometheus realize that this abnormal stigma is heavily tied with the laws that govern this bubble world, making it impossible for them to remove her. The Sage restores the bubble world to normal and returns to the tower. Mistalin and Prometheus follow her. After a few days of observation, they arrive at an agreement. The first part of the agreement is to help her govern the bubble world. It is revealed that the AI and the mechs in the city were constructed by Prometheus to help administrate the city. And the second part of the agreement is for Mistalin to bring Seele to this bubble world to serve as some sort of template. Back to the present. Prometheus admits that Mistalin lured Seele here on the Sage's behalf and that the two Seles were separated because of the special rules of the bubble world. Based on Prometheus' story, they deduce that the Sage cannot leave the tower for long and that Dark Seele must be in a different place that only the Sage can access, the afterlife. Prometheus cannot reveal more and tells them that they should meet the Sage and ask her directly. Seele refuses because she doesn't want to put herself in danger. Prometheus suddenly leaves leaves and the girls are attacked by mechs. Meanwhile, Dark Seele and Senti are slowly losing their physical forms and becoming wisps. Dark Seele follows the advice of the residents and collects some moon rocks. Her body returns to normal and she also slaps Senti with some rocks to help her regain her form. Okay, when I started this arc, I didn't expect this weird friendship to be one of the highlights, but here we are. Senti analyzes the sentiences in this bubble world and deduces that she and Dark Seele are the only independent minds. The wisps are desynchronized and she cannot read their thoughts. They question the residents who all have missing parts in their memories, but strangely enough are aware of things they shouldn't be. Dark Seele suspects that some of their memories may come from the people in the world of the living. They arrive at a place with many moon rocks and hear Schrodinger's voice coming from one of them, revealing that these are not real moon rocks. In the Holy City, the group realizes that this place has two different bubble worlds that are entangled, one being the world of the living and the other being the afterlife. To find a way to reach the underworld, Vita suggests finding another envoy, a hermit who can predict the future through poems. They arrive at the hermit's house but meet Mistalin instead. Mistalin urges them to meet the sage, but they refuse. Mistalin claims that her aim is to save the underworld and directs them to the border where all the secrets will be revealed. Dark Seele and Senti told Schrödinger everything they've experienced. Schrödinger was supposed to meet Kira at this location but ended up in two different bubble worlds just like the two Seeles. Schrödinger tells them that because she has no physical body, she can establish a connection with humans as long as she knows their coordinates. Based on Kira's location, she used one of the moon rocks as a medium. So we finally learn how she is able to just pop into existence at any time and give us exposition dumps. Honestly, awesome. They decide to go to the border of this bubble world and find a way to locate Seele and Kira. After a stroke of genius, Senti realizes that the moon rocks are just pieces of rock salt that fell down from the moon, which is in fact a giant tower that illuminates the sky. To help you visualize how these two bubble worlds are connected, think of a hourglass with each half being one bubble world. Light Seele's group arrives at the border and encounters the same black sludge from chapter 36, which turns out to be a consequence of the two bubble worlds overlapping. Because this place is closer to the underworld, Light Seele can hear the voices of the people on the other side. She hears Senti's voice and realizes that the other group is in the same location. Light Seele recalls that she previously felt Dark Seele's presence after holding a piece of light salt and decides to do the same in hopes of establishing a connection. On the other side, Dark Seele recounts the same moment and has the same idea. Professor Rock offers to use her abilities to help them synchronize, and after Dark Seele touches a piece of moon rock, she feels Light Seele's presence on the other side. Light Seele experiences the same sensation and the two are finally reunited.